Hi, Troy Love.
Good morning.
Oh, the first one is just a comment. This is awesome. This is my first time attending live, but all your videos have been immensely helpful to me. That
Oh,
is so, we're glad to hear that. And I am going to go find the questions because I know I saved them and I know where I saved them. But yes, if you've got questions, please ask them live. Um, and in the meantime, what have you been seeing in your office coming in the door? So,
oh, sometimes my internet goes in and out. Has been so. Uh, say that last part again.
I said, while we wait for questions, what have you been seeing in your groups and in your office lately?
I'm gonna do something real quick.
Okay,
I don't know why it does this sometimes, but
I hear you. You're trying to sound like a Jedi or something, I'm sure.
I'm just turning my unplugging my unplugging my internet connection and going Wi-Fi because it goes back and forth and sometimes I don't know why. So that should be better. I have really just been trying to endure the heat.
Well, and we both live in Arizona, and it feels like Florida because here it has the dew point is consistently over 60, which is just really, uncomfortable. And I am not finding those questions, so I'm looking for them.
I know you
Um,
took a screenshot of
I
them.
took pictures. I'm going like, you should go look at your screenshots on your.
Oh, we do have a
Um,
question while you're.
oh, excellent. So the question is, oh, oh, I just had to put a pet down yesterday. The whole family was devastated, but I found that I was preoccupied on feeling guilt about making the decision or worried about my daughter's reaction instead of allowing myself to feel sad about the loss. I know I'm sad, but I had trouble getting in touch with that part of me. Any ideas on how I can tap into that part of myself more? That's a great. I'm so sorry for your family's pet loss. That those are challenging, and I'm glad you're asking that question.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're a parent, and so you had to make some decisions that sometimes take us away from being able to feel what it is that we're feeling. You're being put in a position where you have to make some tough decisions, and so you move into that cognitive realm where you are trying to weigh out what the decisions are. You are aware that the decision you make is going to have an impact on your daughter, and you want to be able to be there for her. And so what you just described is a really normal reaction. And the fact that you recognize that there's a part of you that needs to grieve, I love that. And so there's things that you can do for you. Finding some quiet time for yourself. If you have pictures of your pet, flipping through them, and looking at some of the pictures and remembering some of the memories. Um, I have a sad song playlist that I listen to that when I really am trying to give myself permission to feel sad, I listen to my sad songs. And if you don't have that, Spotify has lots of people have created sad song playlists. You could just go on there and look that up. So part of that is recognizing that there's no right way to grieve, and every person is going to deal with that differently. The other part is that I, it just came and went. But you're I don't know. It just went away. Whatever it was apparently not that profound. But
Well,
but
I was thinking about the compartmentalization almost of like
yeah,
so yes, getting in touch with that, but also like showing up as a parent, like it's a little challenging because you're going like, I need to show up for my child, so can you talk a little bit about that? How do you navigate and even model that, with a child?
yeah. So I don't know about y'all, but growing up, my parents did not really show a whole lot of painful emotions except for anger. They did that one really well, but the rest not so much. And so as a parent, being able to sit down and share and ask questions of your daughter, like, how are you feeling? What's the part you're gonna miss the most about your pet? What do you um how are you feeling? And then you share some, like, I'm gonna miss this, and I'm sad that um the pet was in a place where they weren't feeling well, and being able to hold space for your daughter, and being able to model and talk about your sadness. This is what I was going to say. Sadness comes from a sense that you've lost something, and in this case you have lost something. You've lost a dear part of your family, and so being able to explore, well, what have I lost with this pet? What kind of things did the pet do for our family? What kind of funny things did the pet do that we're not going to be able to have anymore? Those kind of things. So being able to honor that, sharing that with your daughter, sharing that with yourself, journaling is always, for a lot of people, a really good way of being able to grieve that.
Well, and I was thinking you talked about how it wasn't safe to have emotions, except really negative anger emotions, and and so how what a gift it is to be able to step into the I'm going to let my child know or children know that emotions are part of who we are, and they aren't going to go away, and stuffing them in a closet. So being able to, take a little break and get in touch with what that is, and showing that, yeah, I'm really sad about this, and but looking at a funny picture and going, oh my gosh, remember when we stuck the reindeer antlers on, whatever it is, like there's always all of that, and in feeling the spectrum of emotions, about that too. So I'm glad you're asking that question. I have a feeling this plays out in other areas, for you too. And so being able to, to tap into that, and permitting yourself to, like, it's okay, to have that. I did find the questions, by the way. Okay.
Okay.
So the next question is, what's the real reason men wouldn't go through all this trauma to stay with a woman? Yes, I know some do. I've heard plenty that if the woman cheated, he's out. Why the doubles? This is a great question. And there are, yeah. Also, not that I want one, but why isn't the betrayed partner at least offered a hall pass? I assume it's because he couldn't handle it, like the first part of my question. So, and I have seen the there are some differences, from a gender standpoint. So thoughts?
I was teaching inner I was teaching a marriage and family class at our local university, and this guy was talking about how he had cheated on his wife, but he would never be okay with his wife cheating on him. And some woman in the back threw her water bottle,
Oh, wow.
pinged him in the back of the head. And so we had a big discussion about the hypocrisy of that. What is that all about? And I don't know if I have a solid answer for that. You might, Tammy, but I think that there's a part where we refuse to look at our behavior, but we are really good at being willing to look at the other person's behavior. We are not willing to take a look at how my behavior impacts you. I don't want to look at that. I might have some so I call them the shadows of shame, that tell me that it's fine, that I have a right to do this kind of thing. I'm entitled to do this thing, but how dare you do that to me? Which is all shame-based thought patterns that really show up for that. And so why the double standard? I can't say. What I can say is that a lot of the men who want to stay with their partner is because they don't actually want to do the behavior that they're doing. They want to save their marriage. They want to save their family and their partner, and their relationship means a lot to them. And they're also trying to figure out, like, why have I been doing this? I tell myself I'm not going to do this, and then I do it again, and I tell myself I'm not going to do it, and I do it again. So why? So there's a part of them that I think a lot of them value what they have, and they're trying to be better men. So that's why they're willing to endure the difficulty of recovery sometimes. Um, as far as a hall pass, why doesn't the betrayed partner get a hall pass? Well, I'm not here to judge any betrayed partner, and I will tell you there's a lot of betrayed partners who do feel like they have a hall pass, and they do feel like they can go do what they want to because their partner did that. It all goes down to what is your value system, not what is my value system, but what is your value system, and are your behaviors aligning with your value system? And if your behaviors are not in alignment with your value system, there's going to be incongruence. And then you're going to go into the shame stuff that I just talked about. Either I'm a horrible human, what's wrong with me, or I deserve this. And because of that. So that's a blanket answer for your question, but it varies by couple, it varies by individual.
Yeah, and the messiest disclosure processes, whatever, are when both people have cheated, and so now you're doing, and you have to do them separately and process through that. And to your point, Troy, I've had male clients, female partners who they sex addiction, betrayal, all of that kind of stuff. And, a one-off, by the hall pass, so to speak, for the partner, and they are devastated and betrayed, and they want just to focus on that, which isn't fair and isn't right. And obviously if they're doing the work, they get through and past that. But there are differences, like how men and women approach things. Anger is an acceptable emotion for men. Having softer emotions isn't. And so there's a lot of there's a lot behind that. I go with Troy though. I hear lots of partners that have gone out, because they were betrayed, and they go do that, and it's a revenge thing. And not all, but many of them don't feel good about themselves. And so now they've got that layered onto everything else that they were experiencing. So, I think at the end of the day, what is the goal? If the goal is vengeance, absolutely. If the goal is, gosh, how do we heal this relationship? What do we want? Then, then what's going to be good for the relationship, and, one-upping somebody, it may not be the most helpful path, but everybody chooses their path. Like this is not a values thing. This is just, think it through. Addicts don't do that. But, for partners, think it through. And how are you going to feel afterwards? Are you doing it just to, rub somebody's nose, and go, haha, and is that who you are? And if, again, no judgment, but most partners, they don't feel good about, having that. So, but everybody picks. Okay, so the next one is, my husband goes to meetings but does not have a sponsor yet. He sees a CSAT, but only once a month. He does not communicate and doesn't seem to understand the profound pain he has caused and what I'm still going through. I'm hoping he finds a sponsor soon. Do you feel he will be better able to communicate with me and more understanding once he has a sponsor? I'm frustrated and hurt and lost in my own path. Like, so much here. Start, but I've got
Yeah. So usually when a person enters recovery for the first time, their capacity for empathy is almost non-existent. So they've been so wrapped up in feeling bad about themselves and the behaviors that they've done, or they've been so wrapped up in trying to hide their behaviors because they feel bad about them, that it's all focused on me, right? It's me, I'm focusing me. So then when I see that you're hurting, I don't have the ability to have empathy for that yet. All I see is, well, look, I'm a piece of crap. Like I've messed up. I'm a horrible human. And notice it's still all about me, right? So that's painful for the partner, because the partner's like, I want you to see my pain, Like, can you see my pain? Can you see what I'm going through? So that's really, really common at the beginning. As the person goes through recovery and they start to heal some of the stuff and they start to get some sobriety under their belt and things happen, they do have the ability to start shifting into more empathic responses. But it is an actual educational process that they have to go through. They have to learn how to be empathic, which you can do. For a lot of women, and some men, a lot of women, that just comes naturally. That's just part of how you are. And some men, that's how they are. But for the rest of us, we've had to learn how to do that. Just like I've had to learn how to play piano, or I've had to learn how to golf, or whatever other thing you want to learn. It's something you have to learn. So that is going to take some time. Since he's early on, it's going to take some time. He doesn't have a sponsor yet. That's also pretty common. Like if he starts going to a 12-step meeting, it may take him a couple of weeks to find a sponsor. We want to make sure they find a sponsor that fits for them, that will hold them accountable, those kind of things. So that, we have guidelines, and I'm sure there's some blog posts about that, seeking integrity, about how you find a sponsor. But having a sponsor will be somebody then that you're, I'm going to say a guy, but who knows? Oh, it's a husband. Yes. Your husband can then go to have some tough conversations, be real about some of his behavior, and let go of some of that shame, so that when he comes home, he can be able to have a better conversation with you, and it's not all shame based. So having a sponsor is helpful. Seeing a CSAT once a month, if he's early on in recovery, that might be due to finances, or lack of insurance, or that kind of stuff, which is a reality for some people. If he could step that up, at least in the beginning, to go more frequently, so that he can develop some of those tools a little better, that would also probably help him with what he's going through. At the same time, as you're kind of waiting for all of this to go, and honestly, it could take months, it could take years. I don't know your husband, so who knows? But you don't need to do this all by yourself. We have Betrayed Partner drop-in groups that are available for you. They're free. We would love for you to go to those. You may want to find a therapist who can walk you through, somebody who understands betrayal trauma and who can be there as a support for you. Those are some resources for you as you are drowning in your own pain. Your pain is real. Your pain is valid. It hurts. And I want you to be able to find some way to help relieve that, while your husband's learning how to stop some behaviors and repair the damage that he's done.
So yeah, even if finances are a struggle, 12-step is free. 90 meetings in 90 days. Get a sponsor, and it can be a temporary sponsor. I'm like, find somebody so that there's some accountability, and if you need somebody different at some point, okay. But it is about the accountability. It's about showing up. It's about working the steps. Just parking in a meeting is lovely, and you get some education. If he's going to one meeting a week and he's seeing a CSAT once a month, like, with all due respect, like, it would be hurtful for you to put any trust that things are going to change. I don't know how many meetings he's going to. 90 meetings in 90 days would be a good start. But it's one of those things where the acting out behaviors is merely the top layer. There's underlying issues. This is what we're talking about, the underlying issues, and all the stuff that those maladaptive coping mechanisms have helped us. I use air quotes because they've helped us on one way, but they sure have hurt us in relationships, so deeply. So it's a 24/7 issue, and with minimal, I hear minimal in this. And again, if this has been 3 weeks, that's different than if it's been, 3 months, but I'm with Troy. The first thing I thought of is, what are you doing for you? I'm glad you're here, but how many of our drop-in groups are you going to? Are you part of the Betrayed Partner work group that started last Sunday? There's still room. I've added several people, but what are you doing for you? Healthy boundaries are about you, about your safety. it's got something to do with him, but it's really, what are your needs and what are you looking for? But empathy, like like we often, and I don't like giving timelines, but empathy is gained in increments, and it is not something male or female addict. I think females may have a little bit, more, but like female addicts, like it's very similar patterns, I really small side note. I had a random thought about something that I did when I was still in my active addiction, to a very dear friend, and I just thought, what an entitled, I had a not nice word for myself in that moment, but like it was so self-serving, and I thought she still is a dear friend, but I had the thought of one of the behaviors that I, did back in the day. I've made my amends and all that kind of stuff, but it was just a random thought. So we, male or female addicts, need to learn this, and we can. But really, for partners, like, your healing is very different. For addicts, it's accountability. It's, like learning, like working the steps 4 through 9 in the 12-step program is where we clean house. And so, like, it's we get out of it what we put into it, and there's promises that are made in 12 step, we will be amazed before we are halfway through if we're working the steps. So there's a gift of recovery, but that gift comes with time and doing the work. And so for you, what do you need to do for your safety to take care of you, physical, emotional, financial, and spiritual, and get with your tribe of, of partners that are going to help you during this time frame. So okay, next question. I feel as if I need to maintain 2 realities at all times with my PA partner. In one reality, all of my fears and worries are about his behaviors are true, recovery efforts are faked, there are more lies and more to uncover. This reality has proven time and again to be by past discoveries or revelations that he is indeed faking it. The other reality is he is truly changing now. This time it is different, and these changes I am seeing are actually genuine. I've told him I need his behaviors and actions to add weight to that reality so I can more easily operate from there. It feels impossible to attach while this dynamic is happening. Any advice on how to move through this, or maybe frame this in a different way that might allow my mind to connect? Thank you. This is another great question. And like, I hear the challenge of finding a reality check.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is you don't trust him,
Yeah.
which is understandable, right? The behaviors that have happened in the past have led you to not trust him. I use the analogy, you probably have heard me say it before, about the marbles in the jar, right? The more marbles in the jar, the more trust there is. The less marbles in the jar, the not so much trust. And the only way that you put marbles in the jar is based on the other person's behavior, not based on what they say, unless what they say matches what they do, right? So, but it's all based on their behavior. So there's a part of you that's like, I don't believe he's being honest. I think he's just faking it. He's not telling the truth. That's probably because there's like maybe 1 or 2 marbles in the jar, maybe. And then there's other times where you're like, whoa, like I can see him really working, but is he how long is this gonna last? And so it's like you have the marble and you want to put it in the jar, but you're holding on to it. Like, I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure. That's all normal. And so being able, I love that you're talking to them about, you said, I need your behaviors and actions to add weight to the reality. So I need you to behave your way out of the problem that you got yourself into. So that's a really great thing that I'm glad you're doing. That's where the boundaries and the stuff comes in. And so part of that, I've had couples and families who they literally have trust jars. They go to the
Mm.
store and they buy, they go to the dollar store and they buy the marbles and stuff. And then every day when they do a check-in, they are able to say, here, I'm putting a marble in the jar today because, or, I'm holding on to this marble and I'm not sure about putting it into the jar because this is what's coming up. And so you share your fears, and then depending on how your partner acts, if he gets all defensive and mad, well, there's not going to be a marble going in the jar. But if he's like, yeah, honey, I can tell like that's really scary for you, and I can't tell you about how I'm going to be next year or anything, but I can tell you that today I am in it today, and I'm trying to take this one day at a time. And today I've had integrity. I haven't lied to you. Um, and here's some of the ways that you can see that. And then you can decide, okay, well, I'm going to put that in the jar, or you can say, well, I'm going to hold on till tomorrow, because there's something that just doesn't feel right. So that might be a way, or even mentally imagining yourself doing that as a way of kind of moving through this until there's more marbles in the jar.
So a practical question. I'm assuming if marbles go in the jar, then when somebody has more discovery, the marbles all go back out, or a bunch of them, or
A bunch of
there's
them, yeah.
some removal.
That's right.
Okay.
It's based on, elementary school. Some teachers did this where if the class behaved well, they got marbles in the jar, and when they got full, they got a popcorn party or pizza party or something. But if the class was not behaving well, then the teacher would take the marbles out as a way of incentivizing the class to behave. And it was also like, hey, this is where we're at. So it was a reminder of showing that. So yes, it's your jar, so you get to decide when you're going to put marbles in, and you also have the ability to take them out. One of the most devastating things that I see is when a man has worked really, really hard, and has gotten some marbles in the jar, and then he like completely falls off the wagon, and he is not honest, and it comes that he's been lying for months, and then all the jars get dumped out, and it's just like, oh, so devastating for everybody when that happens. So um, I'm hoping that
So
doesn't
it
happen.
sounds like it can be a really practical visual tool and an aid, but like be aware of,
Mhm.
like just something to have some support around, it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And to be able to say, hey, I'm taking marbles out because, like, and
Okay.
that leads you to have a conversation about here's what's going on that's leading me to feel like I can't trust you today.
Okay. All right. I wish the live chat option were available for attendees, yet to ask the question option, I want to comment about losing a pet. Sometimes events are parallels and allow to make the pain, grief, devastation we have inside come bubbling up, but maybe couldn't allow to come up for a different circumstance. I'm currently absolutely devastated by my 20-year marriage. Recently uncovered his extensive porn use, double life, etc. He's on week 2 of telling me to get out of our home.
Yeah. So I on it, like, we don't have the live chat here, but that's why we have the drop-in group, so you can do that. But you're right. Sometimes I'm holding myself together over here, and then I have a dog die, or I have something else happen, and then it gives me permission to feel things that I have not been feeling. So I'm sad with you. I'm sad that what you're going through, and hoping that you can continue to get some support. You're here, so I'm I'm
And I think the next one might be a continuation. I'm not 100%. I couldn't let myself even experience my own devastation, but no, I needed to. Providentially for me, I witnessed a huge house fire of a neighbor, and my own devastation came flowing out. It was so sad, overwhelming. I sat and sobbed and sobbed. It wasn't my house after all, yet I felt the overwhelmed sadness, etc. So
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
the playlist is like I've had that, like where like I need my sad songs, and just like it put, but and I, for me, have to have a container of it. It's like you can listen to the playlist, and then like you got to go do something, because otherwise, like I can keep going with that. But that's just me. So okay. I started reading Finding Peace book and thought I was gonna be a member, and I thought it would be an active member, but then I feel like you take the reader separate to write, and I'm not invited to speak up in a group as 10th member. This was just my expectation, but I'm gonna keep reading on the course. I like
I
you
know it's
probably understand this. Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
So when you're reading the book by yourself, you don't have anybody to share it with. I mean, these characters aren't real. And so you are part of the group in the sense that that's what a lot of readers say when they read the book. So what we recommend is that you find somebody to read it with. I've had several people who've done like a book club where they read it together. I know therapists who use the workbook as part of a group therapy process. So finding a friend who's willing to do it, those are some ways to be able to help you feel heard. Because yeah, if you're just writing it and journaling yourself, that can feel pretty lonely. And so I fully honor what you're saying, and hopefully um, you can find somebody who would be willing to read it with you. There's a
And
lot.
I have a better idea. There's Troy Love does an in-person retreat. I actually participated in it, and you know what? Everybody's there and everybody's hearing and sharing. But like it's, you know, it's an amazing experience to be in person. So if that is something, Troy will put in the chat, because you know
Yeah.
we to everyone about that. But you know, if that's something that you could do for yourself, then it's more than just reading it or journaling about it. You know, it's living it and moving through. So, you know, you're not getting stuck on something. You know, I just shared yesterday with a group of women that I was, you know, speaking with about, like, you know, I didn't really like finding out some of those things that I had. You know, I knew some of them, but there was like one of them I didn't really want to have. And of course, you know, what do you find out? And so, but I own it. Okay. Um, the next one, I'm holding a boundary up of filing for legal separation if my husband chooses not to do a written full disclosure, by September. He told me he will provide a verbal recall, but nothing will be written. I'm not okay with him going off memory alone, since he has withheld so much information over the years and done being flexible and essentially manipulated to wait for any longer. It's been over 2 years. Due to my holding my boundary and not caving to his negotiation request, he is now holding a family trip that has been planned for my parents and our whole family over my head. Oh, wow. He said I will not agree to his offer. He will not be going on vacation and will not allow me to take the kids still without him. What do I do? My kids have been looking forward to this for almost a year, and I don't want to crush them over our issues. Do I give in for their sake? Wow. Mind blown. Okay, go for it.
I cannot tell you what to do. I can tell you that your request that he have it written is not unreasonable. Um, and when I'm working with a guy who's doing full full disclosure, I want him to write it down. I actually want him to get it in a Word document where he can go and edit it and put some stuff in that he forgot. That that helps make it cleaner. It helps make sure that things are not forgotten or left out. So I don't believe that your request is unreasonable. I'm sad that he's threatening these kind of things. And I'm, it sounds like you are filing for legal separation, which you probably need to do. I mean, I can't tell you what to do, but that that sounds manipulative and abusive to me. And so hopefully you have some legal counsel who can help you know what your rights are in your wherever you're living. So, but I can't tell you to give in, but I'm hoping you don't.
Yeah, and okay, so a formal therapeutic disclosure is not a do-it-yourself thing. Like, what I hear and fear is that you guys are, you know, he's just going to sit down and tell you this stuff, and then it's going to be good enough for, you know, it's supposed to be good enough for you. And it's been 2 years. Oh my goodness. Dr. Rob talks about, you know, when he was doing, you know, therapy, he works with the clients in our residential program, but when he was doing this is the stuff that happened in the first few months, you know, the guys, but like Troy was saying, they need to prepare. It can't be, oh, just I remember a few things or whatever. It's like, how do you get this in an organized fashion? And then, you know, looking at a timeline that gets compiled into it. So it's a process. But yeah, how cruel that he's willing to, and I use cruel, because he's willing to, you know, I'm going to manipulate and not, I don't know how he cannot let the kids go. I don't understand that. That's, you know, details, but the kids, you know, he's willing to not let the kids have a family vacation because, you know, that they've been looking forward to because of his behaviors. So yeah, that, like, it sounds, I'm really sad for you, and I don't know what, but legal advice. And I hope, like, please, if you're not working with a qualified professional, get one. If you need help finding one, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com, and tell me where you're located. But you need good help, to support you with this, because he's really manipulative. And that's saying a lot, because addicts are, but like that's really, okay. The words and behaviors don't match, and the recovery efforts have been used in the past when he was faking it, so they are hard to believe now. So,
That's
and
referring to
that's,
the trust jar thing.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's why you don't trust him. That's why there's
Yeah.
no marbles in the jar. So of course you're skeptical.
And you should, like, he has not earned your trust, like, like that's absolutely what I always say. If lips are moving, it's coming from someone who lies, so it's really, what are the action, and it's not like, oh, look at all the stuff that I'm doing. It's like showing up. That's why recovery takes time, because we don't know how to do any of this stuff early on, but we can learn if we're doing the work, if we're meeting, with our recovery people in 12 step, and we're working the steps, and we're working with a sponsor, and we've got a qualified professional. I mean, yes, it sounds like a lot, but look where we were going the other, direction. So yes, it takes effort to not keep doing those same things, and people that straddle the fence, they don't have the they don't have the escape of acting out, because there's some guilt around that or whatever, and and they're trying to be abstinent, but they also don't have the joy of real recovery, so it's the worst possible place to be in. And too many people, continue to straddle the fence. I'm hanging on, in fact, in the 12-step books, it talks about hanging on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go. Absolutely. I mean, and that's called the willingness. And as soon as we step into that willingness, we can transform, and you will see that we are showing up differently, not 100% perfectly, still human, still, still a work in progress, but you will start to see, and that's what you can start to trust, not without speed bumps along the way, but it sure makes a difference. So, okay. Not a question, but imagining the jar is thrown all over the floor when something bad. I actually had that same thing. I thought, I
Yeah.
wonder if you should get a plastic jar instead of a glass one, just, so I see this as, this would be a visible couple action we can measure, but where we are. But I did this with my kids and think this still keeps him in the kid role. Oh, you answered this before I sent. My spouse often thinks his behaviors are being acted out by his little person, especially reading Dr. Eddie's books. Yes, but just because those are being acted out doesn't mean that we get to go, yeah, I'm still going to be my 8-year-old. Does he want to be an adult, or does he want to be, an 8-year-old,
Yeah. I mean, you said it right in your thing. He's telling you he's acting out from his little kid. Okay, so we're gonna get the trust jar out then, little kid. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so sad. So yeah, I have had many a wife tell me that they want to just throw their trust jar on the ground. It's shattered in pieces. That's what they feel like. So yeah, that is a visual that a lot of people have. I hear that you don't want to be the mom, right? So it's the trust jar isn't the same as a teacher jar where, hey, if you do this, you get a reward. It's just a symbolic tool to be able to use for discussion about where I'm at in my trust with you. And if there's not very many marbles in the jar, there's conversation about that. Honey, I haven't seen the kind of behaviors that have allowed me to put that in. So that's why there's not that much. And until there's more, I just don't feel safe. So it does facilitate a way of having conversations around that. Obviously, it's just a tool. You don't have to use it, but I'm struck with he wants to blame his inner child for his acting out. And honestly, I don't think that's what Dr. Eddie's intention is. It's like, okay, so take ownership that you've acted in a childish way and grow up and be a man and make different choices now.
Well, and it's interesting because Dr. Eddie referred to your work on the webinar last week. And yeah, like, it's not an excuse. Like, we didn't get to, I have a massive attachment wound. It doesn't mean that when that's getting poked, I can go, well, now I can go, do whatever it is I want because I feel bad. No, it's like, oh, that's my attachment wound. How am I going to step into this and take care of myself so I'm not, feeling like my little 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Um, okay. And and this person says thank you. Okay, so we welcome more questions, but I did find the questions from last month. So speaking on triggers, this was the first one that was asked. I am an addict in recovery. I, like most people, have triggers, and that's true of partners and addicts. I know I must be responsible for my reactions to triggers. I have seen people not take responsibility for how they react to their triggers. Personally, sometimes I must leave someone that has been triggered for my own well-being. I would love any comments on this. Thanks. And that feels like it kind of ties into the last question of like, oh, my inner child, whatever, so thoughts?
So I obviously use the realm of the attachment wounds. So if you're being triggered, what that means to me is something's hitting one of your attachment wounds. Even if you are seeing a beautiful woman and you're triggered by that or whatever, uh, that's connected to an attachment wound. So if you can take a look at, okay, the trigger is just your body telling you that something's going on. It doesn't mean that you have to act on whatever that is. It's an invitation to become curious about what's really going on. So if you're being triggered in whatever way, it's like, okay, so what's going on? What wound is being stirred up for me right now? Have I been feeling rejected lately? Am I feeling a little bit of neglect? Am I feeling what's going on? What is it that I'm believing about myself right now? How's my body responding to this? What is my body doing? What do I need in this moment that will help me be able to manage this in a way that's congruent with my value system? So that when we're triggered, that takes some practice, but that's an invitation to slow down and take a look at what's going on inside of us. Most of us, we just react, but that this is an invitation to try to do something different.
Well, and you're, the visual with the trust jar, like I literally, if I'm feeling my abandonment wound getting poked, I'm probably going, it's getting poked. And, and I have a neglect, I got stuff. But having the ability to go, oh, that's getting poked. And like you said, I'm going to be curious what's going on. I had a partner that reached out recently and said, and it's a female partner, and she was sharing that like now she perceives all women are unsafe and they're all triggering to her and she hates it, but she's kind of stuck in that moment right now of like, they're the problem, which they aren't. If they're being objectified by a husband or whatever, they're a victim of that, from that standpoint too. So it's hard to it's understandable, and the opportunity is there to look at it and go, oh, I'm getting data, and is this real, and how can I move forward in a different way? So the next one, Troy, is when addiction is based in narcissism. No, when addiction is based in narcissism, is there any hope for recovery? And I don't know if, narcissistic personality disorder, like that's kind of rare. All addicts, all forms of addiction have narcissistic traits. But I think let's focus on, is there hope for recovery?
Well, yes. I don't think Tammy and I or any of the other people that show up in the drop-in groups would be doing this if we didn't believe that people couldn't get better. So yes, there's hope. So narcissism comes from the Greek story of Narcissus, who fell in love with his own image to the point that he couldn't do anything else. He couldn't eat, he couldn't whatever. He just was in love with himself. And that is what addicts do. They focus a lot on themselves. So there is a lot of narcissistic behavior in addiction, but there's a lot of narcissistic behavior in everything that we do, not just addicts. So we all have some narcissism that we might want to take a look at. But that doesn't mean that we are always going to be that way. The more that we increase our ability to have empathy for each other, the more that we realize that my behaviors impact you, and I want to be able to make your path easier, not rescue, but make your path easier, because I know that it will do the same for me. That shifts some things, and yeah, that's possible. I've seen it, and it's beautiful.
Yes. And the narcissistic traits reduce the more we are in recovery. We are all self-focused, in addiction. We have to be in order to be able to do what we want to do and have disregard for everyone else. But in recovery, we are outward thinking. That's like I said earlier, we will be amazed before we're halfway through working the steps. We start to focus. Making amends is, I have to be focused on what my behaviors were and how they impacted someone else. We weren't thinking that in addiction. So, okay. So the last one from before, we would welcome more questions. My essay husband broke a boundary, which has made me want to impose an additional boundary in order to feel safe. My new boundary is he can't go to a gym we belong for the time being, which he told me this morning he wouldn't give up the gym, even though we have a wonderful gym in our community that we can use. He likes the classes at the initial gym. We have we had a formal therapeutic disclosure in February of this year, which was a nothing burger. He just said that he already figured out by myself. So we had a second one in April. Okay, so they've had some formal therapeutic disclosure, but it sounds like it was incomplete. I kind of wonder if it was really with, qualified professionals guiding it, because a qualified professional wouldn't go, you already know everything, wouldn't let them get away with that. So I'm concerned about that. But so what about the gym? You can't go to this one. Yeah.
So I'm curious. I've I've been thinking about this question for a month.
Oh, because
To
you knew
me,
where they were.
uh, to me, that's not a boundary.
Right.
Um, that that's a demand, or you're telling your husband what you can and cannot do. That's not a boundary. And maybe tell me you disagree with me, but that
No,
to me,
I agree. Yeah.
that's not a boundary. Um, that's that's you imposing something, and it's not going to go well. Now you could say, hey, I do not feel comfortable with you going to the gym. And if that's a decision that you're going to make, here's what I'm going to do to keep myself safe. Now, some guys will think, well, that's just another way of you trying to control me and tell me I can't go to the gym. No, I you get to do what you are going to do, but this is what I'm going to do for me, and that's the difference. So when I hear a partner say, well, you can't do this and you can't do that, or you can't take your phone into the bathroom, or you can't, that's not a boundary. It's a request. You could ask that, and maybe they'll agree with you or not, but that's not a boundary. So that that's the part where I'm like, like I don't want you to I'm not trying to shame you for that. I'm not trying to say that's wrong. All I'm saying is, like, when that happens, when you it's like you enter into a parent role, really, and like you can't go, you're grounded, you can't do that. When that happens, the dynamic shift, and he either will completely break the rule and lie about it, which is not going to make things better, or he's going to tell you sure, but then he's going to be resentful. So that's on him. That's not you. So the way you do it is, this is what I'm going to do. These are the things that I need for me to feel safe. There's some drop-in groups for the betrayed partners where they work on those kind of boundary stuff. So, but that's where that's at. What I'm hearing is he's not really taking a whole lot of ownership of his behavior. He hasn't become honest with you. And so what you're doing is trying to grapple with, how can I contain this situation so that I can feel safe? And unfortunately, that won't work. He has to be honest or not.
So Yes, and I agree wholeheartedly. And we talk about this on lots of things, and we talk about it a lot in the Empowered Women's Retreat, both internal and external boundaries. But they're for your safety. They are not punishment. They are not control. Like even when I'm going to make him sleep in the other room, you can ask, but at the end of the day, I can sleep in the other room, or I can't make anyone do anything. That is absolutely. I can just I can just change how I'm showing up for myself and for others. And so I agree with what Troy said. Like the results of trying to impose that probably are not going to get you the safety that you're seeking. Like you shared it. I'm looking for safety, and I want him to do this because then I'll feel safer. And gosh, I'd like him to do the recovery work so you feel safer regardless of the environment. So I put the link to the Empowered Women. We have one spot left in the August Empowered Women's Retreat. It is amazing. We don't talk about him. We're talking about, processing through, the grief and anger. We talk about, we talk about internal and external boundaries. And we don't just talk about this. This is not just talking at you. This is, there's psychodrama, there's breath work, there's anger release work. There's so much good stuff. It really is good. Again, one spot left, and then we'll do another one in October. But for partners that are ready to heal for themselves, like this is all about you. And people go, well, he did all of this. And I used the analogy the other day of, so you're in a car crash, you're the passenger. You weren't driving the car, you weren't driving the other car. You still end up at the hospital, because you still have wounds. And so taking care of you is what is necessary for your healing, regardless of what the addict's doing. And we do find, Aaron just shared about this on the webinar on Monday night, the partners that are doing their work, and again, no shaming, this is just sharing, but the partners that are holding their boundaries, all of a sudden the addict's going, wait, this is different. And that starts to shift the dynamic. And for many of them, they are finding that, he does show up differently. It's not a guarantee, but you know what? At the end of the day, the partners feel better about themselves. So, okay, those are the old questions. And so the new question is, we are going to a music concert this weekend. Do you have advice for both the addict and betrayed partner to manage this target-rich environment? That's a great question.
Don't go. Just kidding.
He's just kidding.
That's a horrible answer. Okay.
Yeah.
So I love the question. Okay. So part of it is there are going to be people, and a lot of them are probably not going to be wearing a lot of clothes because it's really hot everywhere.
And behaving badly.
Right. So understanding that eyes may wander, but what's the intention, right? So part of that is, hey, if I'm the husband, because you're the wife, I'm going because I'm going to the concert because I want to enjoy the music and I want to enjoy it with you. So what's my intention? So am I going to see some stuff around? Yes. And when I do that, it's going to be a reminder of turning to you and having some focus on you and being with you and smiling and laughing and looking you in the eye and reassurance, and just saying, hey, I am so grateful that I'm here with you and this is fun. And so that it's a mindfulness tool. Like when you are meditating and your mind wanders, you bring it back to whatever it is. So while you're there, you bring it back to your partner, and you are there with your partner. So be there with your partner. And for you, if you notice that he's starting to look around, touch him, rub his face, grab his face and say, oh my gosh, you're so, like, whatever, and not in an angry way, but you bring your presence to him, like, honey, like, look at that. And doing your best to both, and having a conversation on your way. Like, we are going to work on just being present in the music, noticing how that feels in our bodies, being present with each other. We're going to be there with each other and spend time with each other. That's what I hope that y'all will do, and then you'll have a wonderful time together.
Yeah, and even having the I'm going to tap you on the shoulder, or I'm going to tap you on the shoulder, whatever it is, or squeeze your hand, whatever it is. And that's just going to be like, if I'm doing that, I'm just looking to connect and making sure we're tracking with each other, like whatever, but have the conversation in advance. Because again, that's the intention, but yes, the world is, you can't, well, you don't want to be all bubble wrapped. So at some point, like, you want to go experience a concert, I think you'll have a great time, and it'll be an opportunity for the two of you to connect. So enjoy it. And this is one other thing, if he's, if he drinks, this would be a time not to drink, because we behave worse when we would do those things. So this would be an invitation to go, yeah, I'm gonna have a soda or whatever. I would want to be as prepared as possible to show up correctly and not have something hijack my brain. So, okay, what do you do when after full therapeutic disclosure with a qualified professional, the betrayed partner learns about additional information that was never disclosed? It makes them feel as though the entire recovery, including disclosure, was fake. Do you redo disclosure? How do you get to the bottom of continuous lying that even professionals cannot seem to detect? How can I make the addict feel safe to disclose the full truth so that I can begin to heal? This is, thank you for asking this, and I'm sorry. And we tell the guys that come to our residential program and on webinars and stuff, don't do a formal therapeutic disclosure if you're going to keep holding stuff. So thoughts?
So it sounds like you discovered it. There are
That's why I'm
times,
here too.
yeah, when I have the guys read an intention letter before they do their full disclosure that says, I've done my best to include everything in here, but there may be something that I remember later. And when that happens, I will disclose that to you within 24 hours. Because, sometimes we block stuff out. So, but so that's kind of set up in the beginning of understanding that there may have been things unintentionally. But what I'm hearing with you is that you did discover something that wasn't previously disclosed. Do you need to do the whole whole disclosure over? Maybe. It kind of depends on the situation and what you found out, but there at least needs to be a conversation about what you found out and what led him to not share that. You want to know how to make him feel safe? Well, you have a right to be angry, you have a right to feel betrayed, but if you freak out, that will not lead him to feel safe enough to tell you. So part of that is being able to say, hey, this is your chance to be able to be honest with me. I need the full truth, and I need you to be transparent with me. And if not, then I'm probably gonna lose my beat because you don't feel safe. So it's that you may also ask to have another session with him and the therapist and you, where you talk about that if that feels more safe. Unfortunately, this does happen from time to time. I wish it didn't, but it does. And so that's the discussion. And then finding, like, I'm not a human lie detector. I can't tell if somebody's lying or not. You can. You have a psychic sense about that with your partner that I don't. So part of that is having to talk about it. I don't know if you need to do the whole thing all over again, though.
Yeah, and I don't know either. I have the book You Can't Lie to Me. That's a really interesting book. And yes, I think that there are things that we can do that help us. But yes, I have lots of people that the record right now is a guy came to treatment who lied to his therapist for 11 years. And I hope nobody ever breaks that. But yeah, and so I'm in the category of, like, I would love the two of you to go work with his therapist and have it be like there were things that were left out. I'd like you therapists, I like the two of you to work on this so that there can be like a mini, but I want the information. But I go back to the healthy boundaries. If he is unwilling to do this, if this is going to keep happening, those trickle things, what is your boundary? What are you doing to take care of you? I'm going to be less available. We're not going to whatever it is. And it's not punishment. It's not control. It's just like, this isn't safe for me. So therefore I'm going to take myself over here. I'm going to be taking care of myself, doing, the self-care things. And, I really hope you get your beep together so that, so that we can I vision us being together, and your consistent lying and minimizing and hiding and lies of omission are still lies, is keeping us from being able to be on a healing path. And that's sad, and there's grief about that, to process through. But okay, we are out of time. Thank you, Troy. Thank you, everyone, for the great questions and for the previous questions too. I'm glad you remembered that. And we will be here next week. Is Kristen Snowden. I'm going to double check the calendar, but I think that she is here on the 5th week of the month. And then I'm working on something for the 2nd week of next month. So watch the schedule. We've got some changes with not with the summer schedule. So there's some vacations and things. So, okay. And I will talk to you later. This recording will be posted on our website. Again, questions are looking for a qualified professional, email me at tami@seekingintegrity.com. Bye, everyone.